All right, so if my model is the final concluding model, right, that is the fundamental model of reality, then it should be able to explain a lot of stuff. So what I want to do is I want to plug current models into my model and interpret it, because I've got the magic glasses. See, these are the magic glasses. No, I'm just kidding. They're not magic glasses. It's just my reasoning, and hopefully my reasoning is your reasoning, and we're all reasonable about it. So the purpose of life of so this is all advancing in levels of self-awareness. So what I want to do is I really want to just establish a starting place, like a really firm, well-defined model, because I don't think the current one is working very well. So Federico Fregin said that the body is a quantum classical device. I don't know if he called it a device, but it's quantum and classical. So I believe that this is what we take ourselves to be, right? This is what all the hubbub is about, is that this seems to be me, right? So the boundary should be the skin, right? The boundary should be what I call me. So the boundary between, and even space and time, right? So space and time are that oh, space and time are not fundamental. They can't be joined, right? Space is the opposite of time, just like positive is the opposite of negative. You see, you can't put them together, and it doesn't. It actually is an illusion that it works. Again, really, 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 really close and really, really, really accurate is still wrong, right? You guys in mathematics, really, really, really close is wrong, right? So gravity, the theory of gravity, it might be accurate to 11 decimal places or whatever. It's still wrong though, correct? It's still wrong, correct? Speaking, all right, speaking of gravity. So it appears to me that as life develops, so what I call life is awareness is coming through it, right? It's not consciousness. Awareness is not generated in the thing, right? It's not generated in the thing, but awareness is coming through it in the way that someone reading a novel, that consciousness is coming through it and animating in the imagination what's going on. So in this world, it seems as though the more advanced you get, the more self-aware, evolved an awareness, a consciousness becomes, the more it wants to fight against gravity. The more it wants to, I'm just going to make a big leap, the more it wants to leave the earth, the more it fights against gravity, right? A rock is, we could say a rock is aware of gravity. That's about it, right? It has no choice. It can't fight against gravity. It just does what gravity says, right? Because I don't believe there's much awareness coming through a rock, right? The reader of the book isn't very interested in reading about a rock, the experience of a rock. So as this awareness becomes more and more, as this advances, it wants, see, it's going this way, right? So what I believe happened, so this is a manifestation, it's the physical manifestation, the body wanting to advance to planetary consciousness, right? It's the physical manifestation of people literally wanting to leave the planet, to go leave gravity, escape gravity, which is our boundary. We want to get through our boundary to get to the next one, but it's not that way. It's we have an intuition that the next level is planetary consciousness. But we've been led astray via technology. Through technology has led us. So if these are numbers, we're at 6.9. And what I believe, I'm going to bounce around and I might forget some of this stuff, but frick, we're at 6.9, right? This is, maybe there's little baby steps between each big step, but we're at 6.9. And what I believe what happened is that when when the voice in the head appeared within consciousness, that was an enlightenment experience. That was when half of you, half of that consciousness, jumped into planetary consciousness, I believe. And the part that's left is us, unfortunately. But we've had that memory ever since, right? Like, we fell back into delusion. We're that consciousness that fell back into delusion. But every time that, in that moment of lucidity, I believe that that consciousness, whatever that species was, exactly prior to what I would call, what I'm saying is humanity is at the start of symbol, basically. That's what I'm going to call humanity. Humanity to me is when thought entered consciousness, the first I thought. So at that moment, it moved into Gaia, right? That species advanced into Gaia, and we were left behind. And but we have that memory ever since, right? We have that longing. This is the search. This is the search. And everything that, like, trees want to leave, right? Trees, the story is that they're competing for sunlight. That's one narrative, but my narrative is that they're fighting against, they're a physical manifestation of consciousness advancing to the next level of self-awareness, which is planetary. So you would become a Gaia, or all of us, say, all of us that are on this same frequency, the analog frequency, I'm going to call it, of nature, just the senses, not digital. We have to, guys, if you're in on this, we have to not pay attention to digital anymore. We have to stay in the analog, the waves. So, and so it's the voice in the head is developing technology, and that technology is diverting our attention away from the senses, which, if we would have just stayed with the senses, that we would have went with our compatriots, the other half, the good half, that advanced. But we're stuck here because we've followed the voice in the head, and we're stuck at 6.9. We're at 6, yeah. We're stuck at 6.9, and the other half of us went to 7. All right, so there's a lot to go over here, so I'm going to start somewhere else now. So if the film is in the can, let us assume that there's another can and the film just continues on. So there's a thing called worldlines, and it was Albert Einstein that that created worldlines, I think it is, and it's just basically a person's life through space and time. But what he did, I believe, is he created the grid of space and time first, and then said that the events that make up a person's life, if you put them on dots on this grid of space-time, but they have to line up according to the grid that physics made. But what I'm suggesting is that no, each world is their own, right? So that, like, literally, my world is my universe. It's not your universe. This is mine. I'm the singularity in this universe. And I create space and time when I decide to make choices, right? I'm putting the points in where the grid is connected. You see what I mean? You guys don't get to determine what space and time is. We do, with our thoughts and our memories and the choices that we appear to make. That is the creation of space, time. So you shouldn't have, I'm sorry, Albert, but you shouldn't have put the two together. They don't go together. It's just like quantum mechanics and gravity don't really go together. Okay, so I believe, let's say that the singularity, I'm just going to make this really sharp and distinct. So let's say that the singularity event, which is the extinction event, is us getting all evaporated simultaneously with nuclear weapons. Well, if it takes 5 years with nuclear winter and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But let's just make it really simple and make it like instantaneous. Everyone just instantaneously gets fried. So that's our extinction event. That's a singularity event. So now imagine continuing that film, but now we run it backwards. It's almost like Mr. Nobody type of a situation. But imagine it would appear from an outside perspective that the universe, that these beings just popped out of a fire, right? Maybe a sun, like maybe a white hole, right? If you reversed it, they would be emerging, just popping out of this fire, and it looked like it just spontaneously created out of this fire these beings, these worlds. They're all worlds. So imagine it as a singularity, and each world line is coming out of that, like an explosion almost, right? So this would be a big bang on the other side, right? So the death, so it pops out a bunch of positives and negatives, right? It pops out men and women and a lot of not men and women. And I hate to say it, but it's nothing personal, but those are dud universes, right? So they don't bifurcate into other worlds. They go back. It's like the Mandelbrot set. They don't make it outside. They stay inside, and then they go to the digital realm. So, oh. All right, where was I? So think of this. So that basically what pops out of this is crazy, right? So just think of the singularity event, which is our extinction. Just play it backwards. Just play it backwards from a little bit after we all get vaporized. So we pop into existence. We pop into this realm from nowhere, from a fiery inferno. All positives and negatives. So a female is positive, a female is negative, and a male is positive. And if we're going in reverse, then each one of our births is a bifurcation, right? Is a bifurcation that always splits into a positive and a negative, because you always have a mom and a dad. So there's something crazy legit going on here with this model, I would say. That in some way that something's going in reverse and something's going... So you're the singularity, and I think this is what, like, fundamentally, Frederico's talking about this, is that we are the singularity. And time and space are coming together in us. So yeah, like, all right, so the if the body is a quantum and classical device, organic as it may be, but I still believe it's a device, a tool. Um, I believe that the boundaries should be basically what you call you. So the body, right? So think about this. I believe that the universe at the more fundamental level emerges from the quantum up immediately, not starting at the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago. I believe that that's the illusion. That is the illusion that is produced via physics. It didn't start there. It emerges through time. So this is what I'm saying, is that it's time separated. Everything, when you look at your finger, first of all, you aren't able to see all this without technological devices, right? You can't look in here and see cells pop jumping around, right? So anyway, when you do, you're not separated from that. That's freaking you, right? So there's no space between you and you, right? So imagine that you're zooming in on your finger and you see cells, but there's no space difference between there, right? There's no space separation between me and my cell. That doesn't make sense, right? But there's no time, there's no space separation between a cell and the body, right? So what I'm saying is that that's a time separation. You literally cannot see it. It doesn't exist in this time realm, in the, in this space realm. It's our past. So when you look at that cell, that was you in the past, in your world. It was, and then when you look beyond the cell, that was you when you were a molecule. And then when you look beyond that, these are time, but you're time separated, right? There's no space between you and ultimately the quarks that are in your finger, right? In your finger doesn't even mean anything anymore when it comes down to these levels, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's time separated. So we've got to, I think that we need to just not even include this as space. So what I'm suggesting is maybe this is all the quantum realm. Inside the body, quantum realm. Outside the body, classical realm, right? Gravity. We are affected by gravity. And when the awareness is coming through this body, when God is reading this book, that's life. That's life. Right? So, yeah, so I found it interesting. Okay, so I found it interesting that there's always just three quarks. Just like literally on a screen, on a TV screen, they come in colors. So they never show up in just one. They never show up in isolation. There's always three, and it's always a combination of three colors or two colors. I'm not sure. Like, and then a subatomic particle, the electron, guess what? It has three qualities: spin, mass, and charge. And I'm thinking that maybe spin does both of those. That actually spin is the fundamental middle thing. When it's coming back, that's another expression. Spin is another expression of awareness coming back onto itself. All right, so at the quantum realm, which I think is really what's happening, I think that's really what's happening on a time. So space actually starts here. Space is space. So there's space and time need to be separated, I believe, because the distinction is always made between, so what is space? I suggest that space is the separation between objects. And it's the measurer that determines what those objects are and does all of this, right? And what's the separation? What's time? Well, I would suggest that time is the separation between events. And events require some sort of consciousness, recording it, if you will. So what happens is that there was an initial big bang, but you can think of it as an explosion, if you will, but it's one iteration. So, and then it comes out in waves, right? So it starts with quantum, and each one of these realms has its own cycle, cycle. For a species, it's a circadian cycle, right, which is in tune with the planet, with the planetary consciousness. I don't know. Maybe my life is the dream of Gaia or some freaking thing. I don't know. But everything, and this is why I believe that the wave function is expressing this, because the wave function essentially is everything at once. And that's what's happening, right? Is that each one of these realms, all the quark realm flashes all on at once, and then it flashes all off at once. But it does this, each one of their cycles is like, I don't know, a gazillion years for us. You know what I mean, right? So one of their cycles is 10 to the minus 43, maybe. The smallest possible 10 to the minus 43, that's one cycle. But the initial cycle is 13.8 billion years. And I believe that already happened. I think, Anyway, it's everything happens at once. Just like the information wave that hits the back of a 2D screen, this is hitting this 3D screen. Well, I think 2D screen, because the planet is freaking, the surface of the planet is two-dimensional, right? So, so the quark realm flashes all on and off at once. There's no causal relationship on the quark realm within the quarks. Each one of these, the causal relationship is with the previous cycle, iteration realm, which is separated in time. And there's something to do with light because microscopes, right? So whatever. So then that goes to the next realm, and then that goes to the next realm, but they're all flashing on and off all at once. And there is no causal relationship at the cellular. It appears as though there is, right? It all appears as though there's a relationship at each one of these levels between the constituents of that realm. But there really isn't. I know it's crazy, right? But this is the illusion. This is the illusion that if you start focusing in like language does, it laser focuses our perspective, right? That's what language does. It narrows our focus. So I don't know what else there is to say about this. But I believe this is accurate. Like, when you average out the world line at the end, it's logarithmic and it's just a 45. But you can take, at some points, your world interacts with my world, right? At some point, my world and your world are at the same, pretty freaking close to the exact same point. And that would be consensus reality. And that has something to do with gravity too, right? Like, because cities, it seems like there's some sort of attraction there. All right, so I think that's most of what I wanted to get out. But so, in order to get to the next natural stage of a higher level of self awareness, which is, I believe, a planetary, I believe that the human consciousness that just begins to meditate now, like really, really just, we know we're not the body, right? We don't have to talk with materialists anymore. So they're trying to prove that they're the body. That's what they're doing. They're not going to make it. So we just need to start working on all of this. And the quickest way to do that is meditation, right? Is to pull your attention even away. Finally, if you want enlightenment, which is stopping the game, but if you like, just like done, right? Like enlightenment can happen anywhere, I believe, but right now I think is actually quite auspicious time for enlightenment if we just switch our attention away from the digital realm. Because the thought realm, I believe, is because we're fucking around in here, right? Thoughts, the voice in your head, the source of it is not out here. It's not guiding us out here, right? The voice in our head is killing Gaia, right? So I believe that when the other half jumped into planetary consciousness, we became Cancer. That's when Gaia got Cancer, and that Cancer's us. And it's the voice in the head, right? So the voice in the head, the source of it is not outside the body, right? It's not part of the senses, which is what we need to be focusing on, exclusively on the senses, to get to this stage, to make that step. And if we don't make that step by the time the singularity event occurs, then these people, they will be stuck at 6.9, and this is the digital realm. This is the digital realm. It's just distraction. It's holding on. It's that part. It's that ignorant part. It's the part that didn't realize, the part that still believes that it's the body, right? The part that. But we all have this remembrance, right? And that's the search. That's religion. That's God. That's heaven. That's all the stuff, the spirit part that the materialists have removed, right? Because anyway. So we're getting really close to a singularity event. And this is like, I really don't think there's no more time for debating about this, guys. Like, we will just be blah, blah, blahing, debating stuff as we drive over the cliff, right? Right? We're on an escalator through the fucking gates of hell, and we're just having a discussion on the escalator instead of jumping off the freaking thing. Like, this needs to be done now, right? Like, we need to really just stop talking, a little less conversation, and a little more action. A lot less. Whatever the song is, we need to start meditating. We need to really start pulling away our attention. As difficult as this is to accept, we are a Cancer. Federico also mentioned the importance of owning up to your responsibility. And change does not occur until you recognize and take ownership. It's your responsibility. So we have to recognize that we are a Cancer on this planet. We are a Cancer. We are there's something wrong with us at a very, very, very deep level. And I've found that out. It's the voice in the head. That's what is the source of our cancerous behavior. Our unnatural cancerous behavior is because we've followed the voice in the head. And now I'm using that symbol, the language, to try to break humanity out of the delusion, the fantasy that language has got us into. So this is a very nuanced thing, and as obvious it is to me, it's not very obvious to most people, I'm coming to realize. All right, so this might have bounced around a lot, and there's probably some things that I forgot that I wanted to include, because this really, I'm not trying to prove, all I'm doing is jamming the current conventional information that are being told, that everyone else is using in their models, and I'm pushing it, I'm plugging it into my model, and then I'm working it out, and this is what worked out. It seems like it makes more sense that somehow the arrow of time is going the other way as well. And I don't think there's even an arrow of time. Like, time in this realm is the sun moving across the earth. Like, that's as time is not clocks. Time is not clocks. Time is the earth moving around the sun, the shadows on the planet. That's its rhythm. One day is one breath. And that's the waking state. So I want to clear this up too. It's not life. The waking state is not life. The waking state is just the waking state. Right? If it were life, when you went to sleep, you would be dying every day. In a way, you are. But the waking state, so life, all I'm saying is that life is what keeps this going. Life, I should have stopped a while ago. Maybe I can edit that out. We'll see if we lift this in or not. So we can't include materialists anymore. I believe that we should start with our experience as, but like, just like Federico said, we are a quantum. The body is a quantum classical. The self is the singularity through which all of this is flowing. It's all flowing through this one singularity. Okay, well, that's it. Stop now.